Okay, hi everybody, welcome to our latest game. We were going to do a pre-designed scenario, but we've decided to go more spontaneous than that. This table layout was actually set out by Charlie last night for a game of Warhammer 40,000, and I thought he'd done such a good job that we kept it out and we put some Napoleonics on it. So we're going to do a confrontation here between a bunch of Hanoverian and King's German Legion troops. So we get the King's German Legion as I've just finished it on the table. It's always fun to get those new troops out. Let's see if they suffer new unit syndrome and collapse horribly. Dan is the commander, so there's always a chance that happens. Okay, so let's see what we've got on the table today. So we've got our King's German Legion Brigade. So we've got the 5th and the 8th Line Infantry, KGL Line Infantry. And then we've got a KGL Light Battalion here. We've got a unit of KGL Artillery, and then a second unit of KGL Lights. So we've got a brigade there of 4 light battalions. We've got a light cavalry brigade, a unit of hussars, and a small unit of dragoons, and that is the skirmish screen of the KGL troops. And then under Charlie's command, we've got 2 Hanoverian brigades. This one's got 2 battalions uniformed in light infantry uniforms, one with flat caps and one with traditional shakos. So look at those. And then we've got 2 battalions of Hanoverian infantry. Charlie also has a reserve, don't you, Charlie? You've got another brigade with another 4 Hanoverian battalions available in reserve. Fighting these and trying to hold this position are the French. So we have a light infantry brigade of 6 battalions. We have 2 entering the table here down this road. We have their artillery in this fortification in the centre of the table. And we have another 2 battalions entering down this path. And 2 more battalions from this brigade are off table following on their colleagues. And then we have a large empty field here. And attacking across this flank will be some units of Young Guard for the French. So the French have got 2 brigades, the Allies have actually got 4 brigades. So we'll see how this goes and hope you enjoy the game. We're back playing General d'Armée, and all the troops you see on the table today are Peris. The KGLs are mainly Peri plastics for the line troops, but the light troops are metals. And for Hanoverians, again, I think all the Hanoverians pretty much are plastics, but the light troops for them are also metals. All the French are metals. All right, on we go with turn 1. See you in a sec. Okay, so we've rolled for initiative and activations. Charlie didn't get any ADCs and unfortunately went hesitant with his Hanoverian brigade. Dan is active with both his light cavalry and the KGL. All French units are active, and we got a forwards order to bring our Young Guard on the table, and they've got a bonus 12 inches of movement as a result of that forwards order. So there are no charges in the first turn, so unless there's any charges on your side, Charlie? No, you're hesitant, so you can't move forward. So we're on with French movement. Back in a second. So you may be able to hear it, but Charlie has put some Napoleonic music accompaniment on behind us, so we've got that going on if you hear strange noises. Okay, so we're going to open fire with our Young Guard first. So we're not going to fire our columns because we don't want to get loss of fire discipline, but we are going to open up with our skirmish screen. They're going to fire 4 bases, 3 bases at the artillery, and 4 bases at the KGLs behind that fence. So we'll allocate 2 dice to each, because that's a 7-base skirmish screen. That gets 5 dice, but loses 1 for firing at troops in cover. So first 2 shots against the artillery. We get 2 casualties against the artillery. That's a good start. And then 1 more casualty against the KGL. So a great start. 3 casualties from the French skirmish screen. All right, our second skirmish screen is opening up at the Hanoverian Lights. So again, 5 bases here. Can see them. That's 2 casualties, Charlie, on the Hanoverian Lights. And then finally, we will open fire with the French artillery. This will be at long range. We look across the table and we see the threatening sight of the British light cavalry heading in our direction. So we're going to fire at the small unit first, because that might be weaker and it's possibly slightly closer. So firing at the light dragoons, at long range. And we roll a 6, so that'll be half a casualty, won't it, Charlie? 4, 5 or 6 to convert. That's 1 casualty on the light dragoons, Dan. And that's it for French firing this turn. All right, so this is the regular KGL battalion. As they're trained as British, I'm going to allow them to fire a superior volley, and I'll have them counting as British in this. So 2 dice then, Dan, as we open fire. A 4, not great. For a superior volley is 1 casualty, but it's -2, so it takes it down to 2. So you lose fire discipline. So no other effect, but you lose fire discipline. And then finally, you've got your garrison over there. You can fire that at the attacking young guard. Let's see what you do. 2 dice, 3 dice, because they've got no skirmish screen or anything. 5s or 6s. 2 casualties. Yeah. All right, we'll mark that up, and we'll get some We'll get some smoke to mark the loss of fire discipline by the KGL. Right, we're rolling for ADCs, and my luck has returned. 3 1s, great performance by me. So no ADCs for the French, and the Allies have got 3 ADCs. How are you going to deploy them then, boys?
Do reserves in the reroll, because you won't need to move much, will you?
No, that should be fine.
So I do 3 dice, so reserves in the reroll.
Yeah, that will allow you a reroll to bring your reserves on.
Yeah.
All right, okay, let's roll for activation. I'll roll for my light infantry. They are active, and my young guard are active. So despite having no ADCs, I am active, but I don't have infantry assault in place anywhere. You get a reroll because you... Oh, is that just the activation for the Hanoverians? Yeah, okay. And then rolling for the cavalry brigade. Active, the KGL. Active, and then Charlie for your reserves. Your reserves are available. Okay, so let's roll for initiative. It's -1 to the British because you have 1 hesitant brigade. We get a 9. You get a 7. The French retain initiative. French will move first in turn 2. Right, so we've completed movement. So the French continue to deploy this brigade forwards. The second element of the brigade, the front 2 battalions have formed square because of the threat from the British cavalry over there, although I've of course forgotten that dry riverbed counts as difficult terrain, so it would be half movement. So we probably would have been all right not needing to form square. Our artillery is still unmasked, can fire at the cavalry again. Charlie's brought a wealth of Hanoverian infantry onto this flank. Hopefully he won't be hesitant next turn. And hopefully I'll have some ACC so I can go into infantry assault. But over here, we've deployed some of our young guard into line because they can't assault because they don't have any support. They don't have infantry assault in place, so they really wouldn't be getting very, very far. So we've done that to reduce our casualties from infantry, from artillery fire. Hopefully we'll survive this turn of firing. And we've also moved up with one of our battalions on the far right flank. For the British, the Hanoverians have moved forward. The cavalry haven't really moved. You've moved, Dan? Are you going to do anything? So Dan will do some movement as well. So Dan has swung his cavalry forward, start crossing the river. So now it's shooting. We'll open fire with the French skirmisher screens. That'll be 5 dice. I think Charlie hasn't put his skirmishers out, unfortunately, to mask his light battalion, so we will fire at it again. That's 2 more casualties on the light battalion, Charlie, from my skirmish screen.
Why?
We will fire artillery at the hussars. I don't think we'll get any bounce through. I think we're still at long range. We roll a 7. Right, let's just check the rate. So the French have fired. Unfortunately, the right-hand battalion here lost fire discipline. We caused 1 more casualty against the KGL line from our skirmish screen, and we caused a couple more casualties against the Hanoverians. All right, Charlie, you're going to fire. Okay, so that will be 3 bases. So that's 3 dice normally, 2 because you're firing at skirmishers.
1 casualty.
1 casualty on the lights.
And I've only been -2 because it's skirmishes.
Yeah, okay, let's roll that. Are they within 9? I assume they are.
That was a 10.
Okay, so that was a 10. That becomes an 8. For a standard volley is 3 casualties against the skirmishers, so they will lose a base.
They already had a casualties, isn't it?
Yeah, and the casualty transfers across. So, all right. Any other firing from the Hanoverians? No. Dan, any firing from your skirmish screen? Going at the square. Okay, so there are 5 bases, aren't there? So that's 4 dice. Okay, that's 2 casualties against the square. All right, and then as we transition across to the main defence, The old garrison.
Yeah.
2 dice against the skirmish screen. A 6 and a 2. That's 1 more casualty against the skirmishers. All right, then are you going to fire your artillery?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is at close range. You don't get a bonus dice because I'm not in column, but you will get bounce through against that battalion that's behind. So fire away at close range. I thought that was going to be worse when the 6 landed first. So that's 3 more casualties. So that's 1 more on the screen and 2 more on the one at the rear. And discipline test. They go unformed because they're on -1. So they go unformed. And then a bounce through against the battalion behind, Dan. Okay, nothing from that. Right, Dan's finished his firing on the right. He fired the garrison from the building, caused no casualties. The KGL and the artillery have opened fire. They caused the left-hand battalion to take 2 casualties and go unformed. They've knocked out a skirmisher base and caused another casualty. And they've caused the first casualty on the right-hand battalion of the attacking Young Guard. So that's it. That's the end of turn 2. Let's roll for ADCs in turn 3. Turn 3 is a good turn for activation. So both the Hanoverian brigades have gone active first time this turn. So that's good news for Charlie. The cavalry are active, and Dan, without a re-roll, risked putting an infantry assault on down here. That's succeeded. So he has got artillery assault on his artillery battery. The French have got have I rolled for activation? Yeah. Not yet. Okay, so the French have got a re-roll. They've got infantry assault, which has gone off. So the Young Guard have got infantry assault, and then my other brigade is just rolling for activation. It is active as well. So everyone's active. No modifiers for initiative. Let's roll for initiative this turn. I get a 7. The British get a 6. The French retain initiative for the 3rd turn in a row. Let's see what we do. Okay, so Charlie's stepped his Hanoverian brigades forward. Daniel has charged his cavalry, although their brigade commander seems to be a bit confused and has stayed behind there. He's charged his light cavalry brigade across this French line. They've got to decide whether they try and form square. Otherwise, the other French in square remained where they were. And over here on the right, the Young Guard has charged in against the KGL line. Dan will get some supporting fire from that artillery battery if he chooses to. All right, so first thing we've got to do is decide whether to try and form square with our line battalion here, which we will try. Okay, we roll a 7. We have successfully formed square. All right, so the British light cavalry have stormed across the river, charged the French. The French successfully passed their discipline test and have been able to form square. So now let's roll the charge results. The French roll an 8. That should be good enough. The Allies roll an 11, but that's only a win by 4. So on a 3 to 5, cavalry versus square, both sides take a casualty and the cavalry recoil and move back. Okay, so we've gone a bit of out of sequence. The French have done their firing. They caused a couple more casualties against the advancing Hanoverians. The Hanoverians and their skirmishers opened fire and caused some casualties against the skirmish screen and against this square. Then we realised we hadn't actually done the charge results for the Young Guard charging in here. So first it'll be a defensive volley by the KGL. So this will be a superior volley. Let's see what you do. Wow, that's pretty good. This is not going to go in, I don't think. So a 10 is 5 casualties and a discipline test on the Young Guard. So that takes them up to 6 casualties. Okay, we'll do their discipline test. A 6, so they go unformed. You've also got that artillery battery, which is in support and can also fire at me if you want to do the artillery battery as closing fire against that attacking French battalion.
Would you recommend doing it against that or against those?
I think they do it against the chargers because they're the greatest threat at the moment if that line fails, even though they're going to do well. So 2 dice for close range firing plus an extra casualty dice, 1 more. Oh no, 2 more because it's yes, artillery assault, and another one because you're firing at. Oh no, you're firing at a line, not a column. So yeah, just 2 blue dice, not 3.
What about close range?
Close range is just the table you read. So pretty good. 7 close ranges, 2 more casualties, a bonus for the artillery assault, so that's 3 casualties, and another discipline test. So they're now up to 9. And a discipline test at -2. they stay unformed, and that battalion has nearly been destroyed. All right.
Does it do roll through onto the one behind it?
You're firing canister, so I don't think there's bounce through on canister. And then you've got your garrison to go out those voltigeurs on the right. So 2 dice. Oh yeah, 3 dice, you're right. And 1 more casualty. You're going at the same battalion you were shooting at before. Okay, so they are up to 3 casualties. All right, and then we will do the assault test. So I took how many casualties? 9. I think I've taken 8 casualties, haven't I, Dan? So I don't think this charge is going to come off. And again, apologies, we've done this in slightly the wrong order, but I'm sure this will still be all right. So 8 casualties is artillery casualties, unit casualties, casualties in charge. So casualties in charge were -3. And then total casualties we've got is another -2, so that's -5. We're not veterans, so I think it's simply a -5 test on us, and we're unformed, so that takes it to -7. So let's see how we do. I do have a re-roll. Yep.
I was going to attach my guy to add +1
to the commander. Okay, so that's -8 then. I'm not going to attach my general because this feels like a lost cause. Okay, I roll a 6. You roll a 3. I am going to re-roll a 2 with my support. I get a 1. Okay, well that's not better.
I can re-roll
5. Have you got a support?
The artillery.
The artillery can't support. The other infantry battalion is too far away behind. I'll have to check whether garrisons can support. Hang on a second. So interesting question here. So the Young Guard is only a small battalion here and have taken 11 casualties. So small battalions disperse on 10 casualties. I guess the question is, does a Young Guard battalion disperse on 10? A normal battalion would be 12 and a Guard would be 15. So I guess the question is, do these disperse on 10 or 15 as small battalions? Now I'm going to rule it they disperse on 10s because these are only regular grade troops. The voltigeurs over there are graded veterans. So given that I've only graded these as regular, I don't think they deserve the honorific of Guard. And I'm not going to give them the morale bonus. So this will be a falter test for this brigade, and that battalion breaks under the withering fire from the KGL infantry and the attached artillery battery. All right, quite nerve-wracking at the start of... Did we start turn 4 or turn 5, Dan? Do you remember?
I thought it was turn 3.
It's definitely not turn 3. It definitely must be turn 4 then. All right, so we've rolled a 6, so we activated our brigade on the left. This brigade on the right had to do a falter test because it had... lost a battalion, and we rolled a 4, didn't we, Dan?
Yep.
So that is a rally. So I go hesitant this turn, and I've had to step back, but I haven't actually broken. So the Young Guard are still intact, but unfortunately still in front of the KGL's guns. Dan has put artillery assault on the KGL battery again, and a re-roll on the Hanoverians. But just remembering you don't have artillery assault on any of your Hanoverians, Dan, so, sorry, infantry assault, so they can't do anything other than move up and exchange fire at this stage. All right, we'll come back after we've rolled for activations and initiative on turn 4. So I think we're on turn 5, actually, not turn 4. And the Hanoverian Lights have charged the skirmisher screen with their front battalion and driven them off, and then the second battalion moved up to get back into support range. The other ones had lost fire discipline, so they've stayed where they are, and the other Hanoverians were hesitant this turn. The French down here are all pinned. We could come out of square, but we were charged last turn by the light cavalry, so we know we're a bit stuck here at the moment. So still debating what to do with my French forces on this corner. My artillery can still fire from down here, and we'll have another go at the cavalry, I think. And again, our squares are pinned here. On the right, I am hesitant as a result of that falter test this turn. So I've just deployed my left-hand battalions into line to try and reduce the effect of Dan's firing. All right, we'll be back after we've done this turn's firing. Turn of firing for the Allies this turn. So the Hanoverian skirmishers have caused a casualty on the square and a casualty against the French skirmishers. The skirmishers did nothing in return, and the square lost fire discipline firing into the woods at the skirmishers, so that wasn't great. Down here, this skirmisher screen has put another casualty on this square, And this gun is proving devastating to this attack on the right flank. So we caused another, I think Dan rolled, what was it, an 11, wasn't it? Yeah, great result. So rolled an 11, so that was 4 casualties. So 1 went on the skirmishers and 3 went on this leading battalion. It's now up to 7. It passed its discipline test, but is not in great shape. And the KGL also caused another 2 casualties on this battalion. So the Young Guard are really struggling a bit. All right. That's it for the movement, and the firing, indeed, on turn 5. We'll start with turn 6. ADCs and initiative. This is looking an increasingly hard task for the French. So French, I've got initiative. I think, what were you saying, Dan? It'd be nice if you didn't win initiative every turn, Dad. But he was glad that my 11s and 12s I've been rolling for my initiative. I haven't been rolling for any of my shooting. So yes, once again, the French have initiative in turn 6. And all my brigades are active and can start attacking again. For the Hanoverians, we've now got infantry assault off on their leading brigade, and their second brigade is also available in support, and the other 2 British and KGL brigades are also active. So we'll start turn 6 with French charges. All right, so the French down here did think about a charge, but with 7 casualties on this battalion, I think we're going to try and whittle that gun down with more skirmisher fire before we do another attack with the left-hand side of my Young Guard brigade. Over here, the right-hand side has charged in. Dan rolled 3 hits with his skirmisher fire and caused 3 casualties on the Young Guard, but you do automatically close to engagement range. So they have gone in. Over here, Dan is now charging the square with his Hanoverian lights. So the square will get to do a defensive volley, but it's at half effect because we're in a square. So a 9 on a standard volley is 3 casualties in the discipline test. So that's 1 casualty on you, Dan, and a discipline test. What's your casualty level on the lights?
5. It'll be up to the
Okay, so that'll be a test at -1. Okay, 4 goes down to a 3. That's not good. That's quite unlucky. It's nice to have a bit of bad luck for the Hanoverians for a change. And on a 3... you retreat and lose 1d3 casualties, so you will unform your colleagues who are directly behind you. So you take 3 more casualties. Right, so the Hanoverians tried to charge the square, but I think their inexperience showed. So they charged up. The square was able to do a volley. It was only half effect, but I did roll a 9 or a 10, I think it was. That caused 3 casualties in the discipline test. Casualties were halved, so it was only 1 casualty on the Hanoverians, but unfortunately on the discipline test, Dan rolled a 3 after modifiers. So the Hanoverians fell back, took an extra 3 casualties, so they're now on 8, and they have unformed their colleagues. So the 2 Hanoverian light battalions are now both unformed. But you do have the advantage, at least, of the fresher one now being at the front. Otherwise, that's it for charges. We'll now get on with French fire. It's all a bit static at the moment, so Dan's been firing with the Hanoverians against my squares. Down here, the skirmishers continue to punish my square out front. I've moved my other 2 battalions into column because I don't want to just be pinned here for the rest of the game. So we're thinking about putting some pressure over here. Here, Dan's guns continue to cause damage to my Young Guard battalions here. Another one up to 8 casualties. And the other Young Guard battalion and the KGL continue to exchange casualties, both causing 2 or 3 each. All right, next will be the hand-to-hand combat as we seek to assault the built-up area. So we both start with 1 battalion. We both start with 5 dice. I gain a dice for being veteran, but I lose a dice for assaulting a built-up area. Dan starts with 5 dice and gains 1 for being a veteran because his KGL lights are veterans. So let's see what we do. We need 4 5s or 6s to cause casualties. I cause 3.
I cause 3.
On 4 5s or 6s?
Oh, no, 2.
I thought you couldn't count. Okay, so we do get the option of fighting a second round of combat. Let's mark up those casualties and see whether we get it. So the Young Guard are going for it. They're throwing both battalions in, and Dan is throwing his 2nd KGL line battalion in because that's within support range. Fortunately, he moved it up this turn, so that move given the benefit. Let's see what we do. I need 4s for casualties. Dan gets 1 reroll. How many have you done, Dan? Oh, this looks good for the British.
6.
You've done 6 casualties. I've done 5. You've won by 1. So we have to mark those casualties up, and then I'll be thrown back from the building. Okay, so on to turn 7. Let's roll for ADCs. I get 1 for the French. How many do the Allies get? They also only get 1. We'll allocate those and see whether I can get the 7th turn of initiative in a row. Okay, so clearly I was too confident. The Allies do have initiative this turn, so up to Dan to decide whether he's got any charges. Dan, any charges for you? Okay, so we'll do a defensive volley from the square. Again, this will be at half effect. We roll a 7. That's not going to do very much at all at half effect. Standard volley is 2 casualties. That's 1 casualty to your line battalion. Let's see what the charge results are. Right, so Hanoverians are charging in. They are conscripts, and they're not in column, so they don't get the column bonus, so they'll be at -1. Both of us have put our brigadiers in, but you are charging me in square, so you get a bonus of 2 for that. So this is a +1 dice result. Both of us have re-rolls as you try and charge in against my square. I roll an 8. It's not bad. You roll a 6. You can choose to re-roll your 2 if you choose. I will re-roll my 2.
You can re-roll your 6.
I'm not going to re-roll my 6. I've gone to an 11. You've gone to a 9. So you're on a 10 because it was a +1 to you. A 10 against an 11 is a -1. So you stop and you volley and you do 3 dice, needing a 4, 5 or 6 to cause a casualty. Okay, that's 2 casualties on my battalion in square. Not a bad result. Okay, and now the British light cavalry is charging in against this French column. We will do some fasting fire as you go past the square. So the square will fire out of that one facing. They roll a 6. That will be a nothing at half effect, so that won't do anything. Now we have to decide whether the square is going to try... Sorry, the column is going to try and form square. I think we're going to stay in column. Let's see what happens. Let's roll this. This is a pretty important roll. Dan will have a re-roll. I just get my base roll. I roll a 10 +2. That goes up to a 12. Let's see how these hussars do, but that looks pretty good for the French. So you've got an 8. So we'll tell you what this is. So at the moment, I'm on a 12, aren't I? So this is a -4. So you would just retire and take 1 casualty. You can have a go at re-rolling the 3. 9, 10, 11. So the best you can get is an 11, which is a -1. So you can't actually change the results even with a re-roll. So don't do a re-roll because you might make it worse, not better. So you both pull back 20 inches and you take 1 more casualty with the hussars. All right, so the right-hand flank of the Young Guard has charged again into this stubborn KGL battalion. The artillery can't fire because they're hesitant and can only fire straight ahead now. So that does give me a bit more of an opportunity here. So let's kick off with the defensive volley from the KGL. How many casualties have the KGL taken down? Is it just 3?
7.
7, okay, so this will be at -1 then. Oh, pretty good. I thought with that 3 it wasn't going to be so good. So that goes down to an 8. So that's 3 casualties on the Young Guard and a discipline test. Takes them up to 7. The Young Guard really is taking a hammering. See what its discipline test is. That's a 5. That goes down to a 4. So they are unformed. This will not go well. We'll now see how the charge result goes. Right, this isn't good. This is +4 for the British as I've taken so many casualties and I'm unformed charging in. I roll a 5. I will do a re-roll. I only got a... So I'm down to a 1.
I'm going to re-roll.
I don't... Have you got a support?
Yeah, then.
Yeah, okay. Another 1. So you've got a 5 and I've got a 1. So you've won by 4. So that's a -4. I retire and I take another casualty. You stand. All right. The French Young Guard are thrown back again. Right, at the end of turn 8, the pressure on this left-hand flank is looking pretty severe. I need to get that battalion out of square. The Hanoverians really now are starting to deploy into action to put pressure on the French position. We are trying to push forward here to push back the cavalry and improve our defensive position. But our young guard are in a terrible state. 8 casualties on this one. There was a battalion in this empty hole here, far from the garrison of that building. Caused 2 casualties this turn, took them up to 10 casualties, so they then dispersed. And we've also got 9 casualties on this battalion and 6 on this one. So nearly the young guard brigade is nearly broken. So we'll see what happens in turn 9, but it looks like this is going the way of the Hanoverians. So full to test for the French, and let's see what we do as we roll for ADCs and initiative in turn 9. The full to test on the young guard, we roll a 4, which is a rally. So we will take that and we won't do a reroll. So we hang on in there, although I think we're about to lose another battalion this turn. All right, so the French are active with 1 hesitant brigade. We'll now do the British. All right, so it's all or nothing for the French now. So the Hanoverians have charged the French square. That does not look good. The French tried to countercharge the Hanoverians in the flank, but unfortunately were out of range. They did push back and damage the Hanoverian skirmish screen, but showing their flank now to that French cavalry. Sorry, to the British cavalry, but in the movement phase we may be able to block that off. And then another charge against the KGL. We'll see how they do. This is all or nothing for the Young Guard Brigade. I think they're going to go next turn anyway, so they're trying to break into the defences. Let's see how they do. We'll do defensive fire and charge results. All right, so the Hanoverians are a net +1 in this combat. We've both got a reroll. French do well again. They get a 10. This is frustrating, Dan. I'm not going to reroll. You do get a reroll on the 2, Dan, if you want to. And get a 6 against a 10, and it was a +1 to you, so that's a 7 against a 10, so it's a -3. You retire and don't break the square. So 2 casualties caused by the KGL as they fired at close range. We've now got close range from the artillery as well. Let's see how they do, Dan. Wow, that's much better. That's a 9. Close range artillery is 3 casualties and a discipline test. First one will be taken, well, 3 casualties and a discipline test. So the majority go on the attacking unit, so they're up to 4. And then the balance go on the supports, and the screen actually will probably take that one, so that takes them up to 2. All right, let's now do the charge result. So I've taken 4 casualties on charging in, which is not good. So that's -2, and I have 4 casualties as well. So that's -3 on the Young Guard. I am not veteran. You are not veteran. I've put my commander in. Have you put your commander in? Okay. I'm not unformed, so it's just -3 to me from all of those shooting casualties. All right, let's see, and we've both got supports.
Did you take the discipline test before?
Oh yes, I do. Did I get a discipline test?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a -1, 6. I'm unformed, so it's not just -3. Even better. Well pointed out, Dan. It's now a magnificent -5, and I rolled 9. That's not a bad result. We'll keep that. Let's see what the defensive volley is. That's a 4. You can re-roll the 1. It's a 4. God, the results go my way when I get the chance. So 9 goes down to a 4. So that's 4 against a 4. Infantry versus infantry. So it's actually I stop and volley. So I would get normally 2 dice. I don't know whether I lose one because I'm unformed.
Don't you also...
I lose another one, so I think I only get 1 shot at you, which I do cause 1 casualty on the KGL. But then we stop in front of you. Right, here we are at the end of turn 9. French still pinned in this corner here, although their guns here did pivot and cause some casualties against the Hanoverians that were pushed back from attacking the square this turn. Otherwise, that Hanoverian force still bottlenecks a lot. The French here are sort of trying to just keep the bottleneck in place by positioning their columns to pin the British cavalry back. Over here, the KGL held off the last attack by the Young Guard. I think it's pretty much over on this flank. I think this brigade is going to possibly break this turn, and if it does, I think the French will then retire that other brigade off the field. But we'll see how we go as we roll for ADCs and the start of turn 10. Right, a lot of charging going on this turn, so the 2 light Hanoverian battalions have charged the square again, and they have put the commander into that assault. The 2 line Hanoverian battalions have charged this column. And then Daniel decided to be canny and charge this French column with his cavalry, not with any great expectation of winning this combat, but to stop me then in turn charging his Hanoverians in the flank. So a lot of charge resolution to do. We'll start on the left with the charge against the square first. Pretty good result for the French on those charges. So the square here volleyed the Hanoverian lights and caused them to fail a discipline test and retreat. So they then unformed both those light battalions, and the square survives another turn. I think it's the second time it's done that. So they're obviously of high morale, that square. Over here in the centre, not so good. The defensive volley from this French column didn't do anything, and the Hanoverians have charged home. They're assaulting with Elan, and the French are unformed. But over here, the French column stood up to the cavalry charge by the British. The result was a draw, and the British cavalry have retired. So that's it for charges. We've now got some firing and potentially the end of the Young Guard. Let's see what happens as the British open fire. All right, so the cannon's got to open fire against, it's got to go against this one, I think, because that's the closest target. Pretty good, 9. At close range, that's going to be the end of them. So 9 is 3 casualties in a discipline test. So that's 1 on the skirmishers, 2 on the Young Guard, and a discipline test, but at 10 casualties, that Young Guard battalion is destroyed. And again, it would be a bit of a disaster. Let's do the skirmishers first, Dan. Skirmishers out the building against this other KGL battalion, and then we'll do the KGL volley. See if you can polish them off. Okay, so they're now on 7. All right, can the KGL finish off this other battalion? No, not with a shot like that. With 5, that is just 1 more casualty. So this battalion is on 8 casualties now. All right. That's it, but the KGL have thrown back the Young Guard, and this brigade will have to take another fall to test and is now broken at 50% casualties. Right, fighting this combat in the centre, I get 4 dice, Dan gets 5. I've caused no casualties, that doesn't bode well. Dan's caused 2, so that will go in the way of the conscripts. Actually, there should have been an adjustment. I should get an extra dice because I'm 1 morale grade better than you, which does nothing as well. So I've lost by 2. Infantry versus infantry. I retreat, you take the ground. All right, let's just do a full to test against my Young Guard brigade. It's very, very close to an automatic dispersal. Yeah, we've got 9 casualties on this battalion, 6 on this one, and 8 on this one. So only 2 casualties left. So it feels inevitable they'll fail next turn. But let's see what we do. We get a 5. They do obey orders. I think I'm going to call it, Dan. There's nothing left in the Young Guard brigade. We've only got a couple of casualties each. They can't get through the KGL and defence. You have taken 8 casualties on that. Is it 8 casualties on that front battalion? Yeah. But I've got no way of inflicting any casualties on you this turn. Your artillery is still firing away. Although your artillery is only 1 point away from breaking as well. So your centre's now really weak, but I have completely shot my bolt. And you've still got 2 veteran battalions with no casualties on the flank. And that other battalion you could rotate in, which would be one of Charlie's favourite tricks to do at this point in the game. My French infantry here are still pinned by your cavalry, and you're now behind them and to the rear of them, and you can still put pressure on my square. So I think my left-hand brigade will retire gracefully, and I think at this point I'll concede, Dan, and recognise the true victor of the game this afternoon. What do you think, Dan? Did you enjoy the game?
Yeah, I did.
Good stuff. All right. And here's Charlie just back to see the moment of Hanoverian and KGL victory. So thanks for your part earlier in the game, Charlie. And we'll see everyone next time. Please do subscribe and leave us any comments if you've got any thoughts about the game. See you soon. Bye.